My philosophy as a manager, I want to get city council as involved in the process as possible. I want to find out what their goals are, what their priorities are, and what they would like to see in a budget.
Welcome to the City Manager Minute, the official podcast for the City of Beaumont. I'm Paige Reed with the city's communications department. This is a new avenue we are using to increase transparency with the citizens and give more background and insight into city decisions straight from the source. And who better to do that with than the city manager? We have with us Mr. Kenneth Williams to share what's really going on in the city straight from the executive office. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you today, Paige?
I am doing pretty well. I'm ready for some rain or at least some 80-degree weather, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
So, the city recently presented the proposed 2024 budget to council. Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Yes, budgeting has become quite the process now. In the past, years ago, it used to just be a few months, 2 or 3 month process. Then it went to like a 6-month process, but now it's become almost a year-round event where we continue to work on things, compile information, identify priorities, and we work on it almost year-round, basically. But it's been a great process for us. We're getting close to the end of it as we speak. We've had a workshop for City Council, a couple of workshops, and we've had a budget presentation here lately. So it's been a great process and one that we look forward to completing.
So really, budgeting is a little bit of art, a little bit of science, and it really requires a lot of back and forth, right?
Yeah. It takes a lot of tweaking. It takes some manipulating of numbers and figures and projects, etc. So it's not all about objective information. We take objective information and turn it into subjective data because we're working with a political environment. So we need the real data to help provide information for the city council to make decisions.
And, like you said, it is a continual process. You're pretty much already starting to plan for 2025 right now, right?
Oh, absolutely. We plan years ahead. While city council doesn't formally approve it, but 1 year at a time, we are planning for 2025 as we speak.
So what does it mean to have a balanced budget?
A balanced budget. Well, it's a little different definition in the world of government and government accounting. What we tend to think at home as a balanced budget is basically spending what you basically take in, revenues versus expenditures. But in local government, it's a little bit different. And in our charter here in Beaumont, the definition actually says taking your revenues plus your fund balance and being able to balance that with your expenditures. And in that definition, it's a balanced budget.
Interesting. So the community investment plan was also presented. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yes. We call it CIP for short. It basically identifies the projects that the city is going to do for the next 5 years, and particularly infrastructure projects. These are projects that usually cost more than $50,000 and have a lifespan of 15, 20 years or more. So we're identifying what that means. We've gotten city council's priorities on different types of projects. It can be anything from parks to roads to water, wastewater utility projects. And we compile that plan. And again, it's a 5-year plan. And we put in projects each year to complete it.
Yeah, I was looking and there's some really exciting projects in there, like a water park, new public parks, and a food truck on there. Does that mean all of those things are coming?
No, unfortunately, but they could. It's a plan. It's an estimate with a community investment plan, but there are different ways of executing it. There are certain things that are funded through different funds, and you have to account for those dollars differently. Like some things are accounted for through tax dollars, which goes to our general fund, which we can provide certain projects. Then there are utility, what we call enterprise fund projects with water, utility, sewer, utility, and also solid waste projects. But there are some fun things too. We're looking at, we're looking at possible sports complex, possible water park. We're evaluating for that. Possible hotel, new hotel in town. So we are looking far and wide and evaluating what we want to do and including that in the CIP.
So it really is a living document. It's reviewed constantly, updated, changed as needed.
Absolutely. So you just can't look at it and say, this is definitely going to happen. It's a planning document. It's our best estimate of what we're going to do and what we're going to provide for the future here in Beaumont. Of course, we have to identify funding. I mentioned some of the funds earlier. General fund will pay for some things, and then the enterprise funds will pay for some things. Then city will just have to go out and issue debt on some of the larger projects. So until that funding is identified and actually achieved, those projects are in the plan, but they're not a definite.
Gotcha. I see. So currently only the items that are in gold are for sure going to happen. What does that include?
Seeing some things that you're looking at in gold, of course, is with some things for our parks. For sure, we're looking at 2 park pavilions next year in 2024. One for Rogers Park and one for Sprout Park. Those are definitely in there. And some of the items in gold, while they are identified for this year, some of them are actually for the next couple of years too. So we want to make sure we communicate that if somebody looks at the document. But basically, it just includes everything we want to have in our 2024 year budget that's in gold.
Okay, I see. So citizens will be able to access and view this document on our website once it's been voted on and approved by council. What were some of the challenges with preparing the budget for this year?
Well, it's always a challenge. Of course, cities don't have infinite dollars. The public tends to think we just have a blank checkbook to create funds for projects. So we have to go through an extensive prioritization process. Take the dollars we have, prioritize the things that are needed for the city, and then assign dollars to those projects. So it's not easy. Of course, this year we're in a bit of a different process, so we had to work through some things such as how we're going to carry this out, how we're going to carry out the budget process.
That sounds very challenging. It also seems like your budget philosophy is different than past administrations.
Well, philosophies are different. Just about every city manager will do things differently. But it's not just the city manager, it's also the finance office, the finance director. In my career, I've worked with many finance directors, and every time I change finance directors, we have to be able to work together on a process to get a budget done because they have their way of doing things. They're the mastermind of the budget. The city manager will make tough decisions, but we have to be fortunate enough to have good financial officers in place to be able to put things together along with their staff. And here in Beaumont, we've been fortunate to have an excellent staff to do that with us. So priorities change, processes change. Even city council is accustomed to working a certain way. So we just have to be able to sit down and gel, work together for a good outcome.
So it's really all about finding that happy medium.
Absolutely. Yeah. And strange enough, it's fun, but budgeting is one of the most fun things, if you will, that I do as a city manager. I look forward to it every year, and I look forward to going through that process. It gives me an opportunity to look and see what all we're doing as a city. It gives me an opportunity to communicate with city council to get their priorities, and likewise with staff to identify their priorities. So it's a way to thoroughly examine the operations of your city and see what's needed for each department.
The budget work session this year is also different than how it's ever been done in the past. Can you tell us about that and how it went?
Yeah, we've had more of a hybrid session this year, with me being my first year here as city manager and working with staff that's been here for some time, and likewise city council members. So we've done a bit of some things that I'm accustomed to in budgeting processes versus the things that Todd, some of our finance directors are familiar with. Likewise, we have interaction with June Ellis, who's an assistant city manager who's a finance director too. So we had a lot of different things going on. My philosophy as a manager, I want to get city councilors involved in the process as possible. I want to find out what their goals are, what their priorities are, and what they would like to see in a budget. I find out it works better when they have input at the beginning and all the way through the process, and it's much more likely to have a good outcome at the end. There are fewer things to talk about by the time you get to the end of the budget because you've talked about so many of them. We had 2 workshops where we basically the first one was council identifying their goals and priorities and us giving them information, some specialized information. The second one was department heads coming in and giving individual reports to city council. I don't think that process, those things were done with council and department heads in the past. So we want to get everyone included. We want to get everybody's input, feedback, so that we'll have a good outcome.
And any citizen can watch the recording of the budget workshop on our website, and we will link that below. For you, though, what are some of the main takeaways that you want citizens to know about this year's budget?
That it's a good budget. We identified 4 main priorities from those meeting with city council. One was public safety. Public safety is a big issue, so we wanted to put dollars in place for that. We wanted to offer things for good quality of life. We want to make sure that people of Beaumont and our region enjoy Beaumont and have the amenities that they want and what they need and parks, etc. We want good infrastructure. Infrastructure is very important. It's the foundation of your city. We want to have the dollars in place for good roads and streets and water lines, etc. Buildings, facilities there to make sure that that's a good thing in place. So we just want to make sure that those things are ready for us in a big part of our budget.
And when we say budgeting for the year 2024, we don't necessarily mean January 1st of 2024, right?
No, the budget starts October 1. We still have a bit of a process to go through. We had a presentation to the council recently. We look forward to public hearings. We're required by state law to have public hearings. And so we'll be having a public hearing on August 29th on the CIP and for people to provide input on the budget itself. And then in September 12th, we'll have a public hearing for people to provide feedback on the tax rate. And I'm happy to say that we're able to lower the tax rate this year. We're looking at a 0.6814 cent tax rate versus last year 0.6950. So over a penny reduction in property tax rate. It may not seem like much, but basically if your appraisal of your property stays the same, you'll get a tax break. Of course, we have no control over the appraisals of properties, but we do work with the things we can control.
I am in support of all of that as a Beaumont citizen. And next year's budget process will be even more different, right?
Yeah, we'll continue to evolve the process and sharpen it and get it in a really good place. We've started looking at 2025 as we speak. One of the things that we look at are fund balances, and those are something we need to work on to improve. So 2025, we're looking at going to a zero-based budget. Zero-based budget is where basically a department head, director, whoever's presenting the budget has to come in and approve every expense. Typically now you get what you got last year. The new process will you get zero, and then you're coming in and justify the dollars that you need to spend. And it's not anything against our city, but it's something that you do as a government periodically because it's the tendency is just for things to build up and some things become obsolete. You don't need those services anymore. It gives you a chance to evaluate to make sure that you're providing the service that's required for your community. So it'll give us a good, fresh look at that. And also we'll be able to justify dollars and have additional dollars. Our goal is to increase our fund balance.
That sounds like quite a process, but very beneficial.
Yes, it is. It is. It's a little more intensive. So it'll be a little bit more work next year, but we look forward to it because if we can provide savings for Beaumont, that's what we want to do for our citizens. If it means we could even lower our tax rate more, that'd be great. Or whatever service we provide, we want to provide the best service we can at the best cost.
That sounds like a very busy few weeks ahead of you. Is there anything else you'd like the citizens to know?
Well, yes, we want citizens to be a part of the process. We welcome your input. We welcome your feedback. We'll be posting drafts of the budget. They'll be in the library. They'll be online and the website, et cetera, at some point. So we encourage you to go take a look at it and provide any feedback. We'll be looking at getting it approved again in September the 12th. And getting it in place by October 1. So again, we encourage you to take a look at it and give us feedback.
So what is the biggest chunk of the budget? What makes up the most of it?
The biggest cost is, in particular in general fund, is personnel cost. That's about 78% or so of the entire budget amount. And most of that is police and fire. Police and fire is typically 56% of the budget, to provide the public safety. Of course, they have the most employees, both those two departments. And we have some things contractually that we have to provide for those departments and what we're doing with them. Personnel costs are our biggest things in general fund. When we look at utility funds, of course, infrastructure will cost a lot.
So you have a catchphrase, making dollars work for the city. I would love to hear what that means.
Well, sometimes we have dollars and they're not being put to use, or they're just sitting there. So we want to make sure that, of course, we want to be good stewards. And another one of our priorities was fiscal responsibility. So we want to be good stewards of citizens' money. So if we have dollars there, we want to make sure they're in the right place or be able to provide services for our citizens. It's good to save and have a really good fund balances, which we're going to have those, but it doesn't benefit us for those to sit there and not working in some way that benefits our city, but also helps to keep our tax rates lower.
And I would love to hear some of the specifics about some of these public safety projects, like Fusus with Beaumont PD.
Yeah, public safety, of course, is a priority for PD and EMS. They've both gotten a lot of attention. The biggest ticket item that we'll be looking at as far as projects or activities will be with our police department with a proposed Fusus system. And Fusus is a bit of a camera video system that will be able to capture images citywide to where the police department will be able to monitor areas of concern and even partner with some of our local entities such as the schools, Lamar University, LIT, and partner with them with this system, which gives us the ability to observe things around the entire city.
So I've also seen some other things in the budget that people have been asking for a really long time, like sidewalks, a Parks and Rec master plan, and things of that nature. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, parks are really important. Per capita, we have a large amount of parks compared to people, which means a lot of parkland. So we want to manage that correctly. So the first thing we're going to do is we're putting into the budget a parks master plan, which will look at our parks and park situation and evaluate our entire town and our park system to see what's there and see what needs to be done well into the future. But not just our parks, we're getting a push for beautification. We've had some feedback that our town could use more beautification, so we put some things in place for that to assist with that. Of course, more mowing, more concerns with littering issues, beautification along the highways and I-10 throughout town. And we're looking at some facilities in the parks, like the pavilions in our park. We have the budget, as I mentioned, I think earlier, with Sprout Park, a new pavilion, and Rogers Park, new pavilion, Dog Park for Rogers Park. So we're looking at our entire park system. We have 4 parks that we're doing a lot of work on now, Central Park, Charlton Park, and 2 others that we are putting a lot of dollars into to enhance our system.
Thank you so much for taking the time to go over all of this with us.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me.
It's always a pleasure. Y'all tune back in and join us for an upcoming episode where we'll talk about quality of life and city beautification programs. Have a wonderful rest of your day, Beaumont.